Welcome to Grief, Grace, and Gratitude. I'm your host, Rhonda Kemp. On this podcast, we will be sharing our grief journeys with one another. Each one of our guests will talk about the loved ones they've lost to overdose, as well as the impact of substance use disorder. As you listen, you could write down and share with us a question or discussion topic that you would like to see us include in our future episodes. Just as it says in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 18, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." My hope is to bring comfort to those who are crushed in spirit. As we talk about the shame of addiction and devastation of loss, we want you to learn how to survive and even thrive while navigating through the difficulty of grief.
Welcome to the podcast today. I'm so thrilled to have Cindy Bowling with us. She's a dear friend and a real blessing to my life. And I met her in a support group for moms and other people that have lost a loved one to addiction. So Cindy has a great testimony, and I'm anxious for you to hear her story. Cindy, if you'd like to introduce yourself and just tell a little bit about you and your Jordan and what you went through with your grief journey, and I'll try to guide you. And I know there's a lot to talk about, but just tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. My name is Cindy Bowling. I live near Tulsa, Oklahoma. I met Rhonda through our grief journey, and Rhonda has been very insightful and very God-fearing and helpful to me to see things that sometimes I lack seeing because of my grief. I gave birth to Jordan back in 92, and I'll start there because it started after I gave birth to Jordan. My first husband took his life by suicide, and Jordan was 9 months old, and we had adopted a little boy who was my nephew, and he was 5 years old when my husband took his life. And that put me in a tailspin. I had these two little boys, and I wasn't sure what to do on my own. I didn't even keep a checkbook. I didn't know how to do any of those things. My husband did it all. And I had decided right after that I was going to put the boys in church and we were going to find God together because I was alone being a single parent. And I was afraid of the world. And so we did that, and I raised them both in church, went to all their ball games, and enjoyed that part of my life. We would read stories together. We played games together. We just, had a great time. And then Jordan got sick when he was 8 years old, and that kind of changed our world. He became type 1 diabetic, and my mind totally went to, now I have to save his life. And I put other things on the back burner. I found out everything I needed to know about diabetes in children. And we changed the way we ate. We changed the things we did. Just our whole world turned upside down. And Jordan wasn't too happy about that. He didn't like being the center of attention. He didn't like being known as the sick kid. He didn't like me paying special attention to him. So as he got older, he decided he would change things. He didn't feel comfortable with the way things were. And he started getting into drugs. And I didn't know that at the time. The first time I found out was when he was about maybe 15 years old. He had gotten into my liquor cabinet. I never drank, but I always had a cabinet because that's how it was. When I grew up, my father always had a liquor cabinet, so I had one in case you had company or whatever. And Jordan drank a fifth of vodka by himself and came and got the keys to my car off of my dresser and took my car joyriding. And about 3:00 in the morning, I got a phone call from our local police department, and he said, "You need to come pick up your son." No, he said, "Do you know where your son's at?" And I said, "Yeah, he's in bed. Why?" He said, "Well, he's not in bed. You need to come get your son and get your car, or I'm going to arrest him." And so my boyfriend at the time, Jim, we went and picked up the car, and we picked up Jordan. And he said, "If you clean the car up, where he got sick in my car, then I won't arrest him and I won't do anything but write him tickets. And I wasn't really happy or comfortable about that. But Jim said, let's do it. So that's what we did. And Jordan took care of a few tickets. And that's where it all started. I sent him to a boarding school because I knew I couldn't take care of his problem. I thought, he's not listening to me. He's getting into things. He's getting into a lot of trouble because a lot of other things had happened, but that was just the big thing. And so I sent him to a boarding school, the only one in the whole United States that would take a type 1 diabetic. He lived there for about a year and he was doing very well. And he came home ready to start back in school and get his life going. And he was happy about all of that. He was back living his life the right way, graduating from school. But all of a sudden, I started noticing things again. He didn't want to get his diploma. He wanted to get his GED. And I thought, well, he's 18. I'll let him do that. So I took him and he got his GED and he dropped out of school and he started working, he said he wanted to become a chef. And so he started working in different restaurants in Tulsa and was doing a really great job. And then he started staying gone again. My older son, Christian, had a little boy with a girl during all of this, and they weren't able to raise him. So Jim and I took guardianship of him. And Jordan would come by and visit Trace, and he would see Jim and I, and we thought he was doing good. I didn't know the signs of anything that was going on. I knew he wasn't drinking because I, just could tell he was different, but he wasn't himself. That went on for a while. And then one day he came to me and he said, Mom, I'm having trouble. I'm smoking a lot of pot and I just don't like where my life is going. He said, I think I need help. And so I helped him find a rehab. And he went to that for a little bit, got kicked out, came home, tried to get his life in order again, found another job, just seemed like he was doing well, met this young lady, and they spent a lot of time together. Then she got pregnant, and she had my granddaughter, Clara. Well, during the time of her pregnancy, he was in and out of the house with her at times, not with her. And when Clara got to be about, I don't know, maybe a year old, Jordan came to me and said, Mom, I need help again. I'm addicted to heroin. I didn't know what heroin was. I had no idea. I wasn't clued into the drug scene. I was lost. I said, okay. I said, we will get something going, but this time you're going to find the home the detox place that you go to. You're going to do all the legwork.
Well,
And
he's had a real intuition there to let him take the reins on that. I mean,
I felt,
you hadn't had any real training or counseling to back off and let him.
no, but I felt like it seemed like I was doing all the legwork. And I felt like maybe he needed to do the legwork. Maybe it would mean more to him. And I didn't really know because I didn't have any friends with children that had substance use disorder. I had no idea what I was looking at. But this was, I didn't throw in there all the other times he had gone to rehab, but this was like his fourth time. And I had found all the others and given him phone numbers. And finally I said, this time you're going to do it all. And he found this place in Detroit, Michigan. And Claire was about a year old, and he went there for a while, and he was having teeth problem because with drug use, you lose your teeth. And he had the most beautiful smile and a beautiful set of teeth. Never needed braces or anything like the rest of us in our family did. So he went to this rehab, and they kicked him out because he was having teeth problem. Came home, got his teeth pulled out, and got dentures. Stayed with us until he was ready to go back to rehab, and they were accepting him back. And I was really proud of him though, Rhonda, because they knew he had a drug problem. So they only gave him like 6 or 7 I don't even remember the name of them, whatever kind of drugs he was taking, or pain pills. they gave him those. And he said, Mom, here, I'll let you be in charge of these. You dole them out when I need them. So I thought, we're on a turning phase here. He's doing much better.
Yeah.
And I felt real positive about it. So I only gave him one when recommended. And then he said, I'll just do Tylenol when those are gone.
Wow.
And I said, okay. And I felt really good about it.
Mm-hmm.
He went back to rehab. He got in a lot of trouble again. I don't know if his blood sugar was high. I don't know if he was coming down off of whatever it was he was on. I don't know what it was, but he kept picking fights with people and didn't want to listen to whatever they were telling him to do. And so they kicked him out. I had 2 people in my family say to me, don't get him. Don't go get him. And they sent him on a bus ticket back to Tulsa. And they said, I wouldn't let him come back. And I was thinking, why would anybody say that? I'm his mother. He has no one else to rely on. I can't leave him at the bus station or in Detroit. So I went and picked him up that day, regardless of what those 2 people had said to me. I wasn't going to do that. I'm the only person that, loved him as much as anybody else could. And so I picked him up and he said, Mom, I'm going to be okay. And I said, boy, I sure hope so. I said, you need to find a job. You need to find an NA group. If you're not going to survive in a drug rehab, you need to get your life in order because you have a daughter and she needs you. And he said, I will, Mom. I'll be doing fine. And so this was in the middle of July. And I did help him find a job, which I shouldn't have done. But I thought, I want him to do good. I want him to do right. We're going to find a good, hard job for him that will make him want to, do better for himself. I helped him get insurance for his truck. Here I was still enabling him, but I didn't realize I was because I wasn't giving him money. I wasn't, putting gas in his truck. I was just doing what I thought would be best to get him in line. And he worked at that very hard job. I think he was plumbing at the time. This was 9 years ago. So I think he was working in the plumbing field, and it was very hard work in the middle of July. It was hot. He was type 1 diabetic. The heat was hard on him. And he worked for 2 weeks and it was a Saturday, and he said, I'm going to go pick up my paycheck and I'm going to run some errands. And this was July the 25th. I said, okay. And I said, now remember, we're going to my mom's house tomorrow, his grandma's house, said to celebrate my 51st birthday. So, be home at a decent hour. He got home about, 7:00. And a couple hours later, Jim and I were going to bed. We tucked Trace in. Trace was, oh my gosh, 9 years ago. Trace was 4. Trace was 4, I think.
Yeah.
And said, okay, we're going to get up tomorrow. He did his laundry. He made up his bed. He did all the things that he doesn't normally do. And during the night, and we went to sleep. Jim got up about 7:30. So Jim went out to get the paper, and he found Jordan on the front porch, slumped in one of our lawn chairs. And he screamed, Jordan's dead. And I came running out, and I just lost it. I started screaming, and we woke up Trace. Trace's bedroom door is close to the front door. And Trace comes running out, and I took him back in my bedroom, and I called my mom, and I said, can you come get Trace? Jordan's no longer living. And so that changed the whole perspective on the day. This was on the 26th, and my birthday was on the 28th.
Wow.
And I just didn't want to have a birthday anymore.
The world just stops right there.
It did. Yeah. You just have memories, and it all comes flooding back. I stayed angry for 3 years. I was mad at God. I was mad at the world.
That was an immediate reaction to just that the loss made you angry.
Yeah. At everyone. Rhonda, I couldn't imagine talking to anyone that had children my son's age. I didn't want to. I didn't want to be in Walmart. I didn't want to fix breakfast for Trace. I didn't want to do anything that you normally do. I was just angry, but I was most angry at God. At that moment, I felt like He took my husband, and then he took my only birth child. And I was just angry. And I wasn't nice. And I just hid. I stayed away from people. I did what I had to do to survive. I parented Trace as much as I could at that time. And, I just felt numb for 3 years. And then Trace kept asking me, Gigi, why don't you take me to church? All my friends go to church with their friends. Why can't we go to church? And I was just angry at that, but I would say, one day, son, one day I'll take you to church. And then I would turn around and spit in my mouth because I just couldn't stand the thought of it. And one day I walked in Walmart doing what I had to do to survive. And this man that I had not seen since I had lost Jordan in 2015, this was 2018. And he hugged me. His name was Dennis. And he said, "Oh, Cindy, I am so sorry. So sorry that Jordan died of diabetes. I did not know he had diabetes that bad." And God convicted me right there in Walmart because, Rhonda, I had been lying. People would ask me what happened to Jordan, and I said he died of diabetes because I couldn't handle the thought of my son being an addict. I was shameful. I was embarrassed. I raised him in church. I didn't do drugs. I didn't know about drugs, and I didn't want to talk about drugs. Yeah. And so that was my lie, and I was sticking to it. And no one knew the truth but my husband. And when that man said that to me, God convicted me and said, "Speak the truth." And right then, my mouth flew open. Tears started rolling down my cheeks. And I said, "Dennis, Jordan didn't die of diabetes. Jordan was a heroin addict, and he died of an accidental overdose." It popped out of my mouth, and I couldn't take it back.
Did it feel, I bet it felt a little bit good though.
It was freeing. It was freeing. It was like God was saying, "Thank you. Now we will work on you."
I think your testimony is so important, Cindy, because of two things. Being angry at God. A lot of people won't admit that, but you've told me that since I met you, that you were pissed off at God. And that for a Christian to say that, a lot of people won't utter those words, but they feel it. And
Yeah.
you dealing with it like you did, just being under conviction and then hiding the truth.
Yeah.
I have another friend that still doesn't tell the truth about the death of her son. So
It's
I
hard.
think a lot of people relate to what you're talking about, and it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, it was freeing, Rhonda. It was. It's like he wrapped his arms around me and said, "Yes, yes, daughter, I've got you now. I've got you now." And it just was an amazing feeling. I've never felt anything as freeing as that. And that made me want to come home and tell Trace we were going to church. That day I got home, I picked him up from school, and I said, "Okay, buddy, Gigi's going to find a church and we're going to go to church." And at that time, I was getting my granddaughter, Clara. She was almost 2 when Jordan died, and I was getting her every weekend. And so I got her a nice little dress to wear, and I got a nice dress to wear, and I got Trace a nice little outfit, and we dressed up, and I had my husband take our picture, and we drove to church that day, and we walked in. And another time that God just made me feel so amazing, I felt his arms open up and say, "Welcome home. I'm here for you." And that was just, I've not felt love like that. I didn't know what to expect because going to church after I lost my husband, I felt like I was just doing the motions, and I wasn't doing what I needed to. I wasn't checking in with God. But I was doing what I had to survive as a mother and a widow. Yeah. And so that day was amazing. It was the Sunday after I had seen Dennis, and God opened my heart then. And then when I walked in that church, he opened my heart again. And
the right church.
Yeah, I couldn't get enough. Every day the doors were open, I was there. I just couldn't get enough. And I loved that I was taking Clara and Trace. It felt so welcoming. And they loved it. They loved everything about going to church. So I said, we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And then,
I wonder if Trace will ever realize all the things that he did that for you, literally.
I tell him, Rhonda, he's 15 now, and I tell him, I say, if it wasn't for you, son, we wouldn't be where we are. And he knows. And we just have a special bond about that. We do talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
He's a little blessing to me. You know how churches always say, if you want to become a member, you can do this, come to our meeting and you can join our church. So I went to their meeting and they said, Cindy, look at all these things we have. What would you like to do to be included in our church? They had you can help babysit kids, you can cook food, you can be on the meal train, you can be on the prayer team, you can do this, this, and this. And I walked around to every site and they said, Cindy, is there anything you're interested in? And I said, you don't have anything for addicts here. And they said, no, we don't. And I said, I want to help addicts. That's all I want to do. And he said, well, let me see what I can find and I'll get back with you. And the pastor sent me to a Finding Hope meeting. And Rhonda, that was my third awakening. Even though I had lost Jordan, I felt a connection with these people because they had children or loved ones in addiction. And I just was like, they get me. Even though they haven't lost their child, they get me.
Yeah.
I can relate to them.
And in some ways, they feel like they've lost their child already.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Because we don't realize when our children are alive that we did lose them while they were struggling. They weren't themselves.
Yeah. But God just took you by your hand and just led you through every step of that.
Yes, ma'am. He did.
So did you start leading a Finding Hope group then?
After about a year and a half, they asked me if I would like to lead one at my church. And I said, absolutely. And I jumped right on that. I said, I want to help people because no one helped me, which was partly my fault. I didn't open up to anyone for 3 years. I lied for 3 years. No one knew what I was struggling with, but I didn't give anyone the option or the opportunity to help me until God told me it was okay.
Did
So
you
I,
find someone to talk to about your grief? Was there a person that just kind of came along that you could? Because I've heard from Bob Willis, a grief expert, that grief is inside of us, but mourning is when we start talking about it.
yeah, I did find I told my story at church. They asked me if I would tell my story, and I said, absolutely. I think I am led to do this to help anyone else struggling. And so they let me tell my story so I could talk about finding hope. And that helped. The first Finding Hope group that I had ever gone to, they also asked me to tell my story. So I did it at their church as well. And that's when I met a lot of the Hope is Alive people when they heard me tell my story. And then Amy LaRue came along and she helped me share my story on paper because a story is got a lot of different antennas go with it. I mean, there's so many things that you leave out when you're telling someone, and to put it all together probably makes more sense, but I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know I had a testimony. I didn't know I had a story. I lost a husband and a son, and I didn't know that was considered a story. I just thought I had a rough time.
Yeah, it's quite a rough time. I mean, to be a young wife and lose a husband to suicide. I mean, it wasn't like he had a heart attack. He actually
Right.
took his life. So there's a lot of trauma there. And with all of this, you question yourself, you have guilt, you wonder if
Yeah.
you did something wrong or
Yes.
that is always part of it.
On both accounts, on my husband and my son, I felt responsible for both. I felt that I had done something wrong both because why else would that happen
Right.
to one person?
Yeah. Well, we think we play a really big part in everything, and a mother is a big part of a person's life. I'm not trying to say it isn't, but
Oh, right.
we don't have the power we think we have either.
No, we do not, Rhonda.
No. So going back to those years, did anything surprise you? I mean, you had your grief of losing your husband. I'm sure it was different when you lost Jordan. Did anything surprise you besides the anger that you went through that you just weren't ready for?
With Jordan, the anger and the sadness, it just envelops you. It surrounds you. You don't feel like smiling, and the first time you laugh, you feel guilty. Just the loneliness. Even though you still have other people around you, when you lose a child, it takes a piece of you that you can never replace. I mean, I am so thankful for my grandson and my granddaughter. I'm so thankful that I have my grandson that I'm raising, because he he started my life all over again. He can't replace Jordan, and Jordan's daughter can't replace Jordan, but they give me a piece of my heart that I didn't know I needed.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're healing. I mean, you feel like you're healed. I'm sure compared to 9 years ago, you're a totally different person.
I am, but Rhonda, I found this Christmas was hard,
Yeah.
and it's been 9 years, and I wasn't sure why I avoided people. I didn't want to do much. I didn't decorate like I normally do. I did the bare necessities. I didn't go down that rabbit hole again. Trace and Claire didn't know. I mean, I wasn't hiding anything from them, but I was just struggling.
Yeah.
And I know there's no calendar on grief, but it's like it's in waves. It goes up and down, and I don't know if the number 9. I don't know what it was, but it just happens sometimes.
Yeah. The holidays are so hard. And I mean, the self-care, we've learned that, there are some things you can do for yourself when you have to redirect your pain, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to let it sweep over you. And I
And
had this
cry.
I had the same problem this year at Christmas.
Did you?
Yeah. It was my 11th Christmas without Lacey. And it's because you have all this love for them, and they're still here and they're still part of you, but
Yeah.
they're physically gone, but they're really not gone.
No.
They never feel like they're away from us. And
No.
it's a sadness that you can't share everything with them.
Right. Yeah. But I had someone tell me that they hear us. They hear everything we say. They're up there with our Heavenly Father, and they feel us and they hear us. And that gave me peace.
Yeah. Well, I know that you're doing some good things and using all of this for something glorious. Do you do anything special to memorialize Jordan? And I know you have a picture of him there somewhere too.
Ask me how many pictures I have.
Just one. Oh yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
And how old is he there?
That was right before he died, so he was probably 23.
23.
Yeah. That was right before he died, so he was 23 there.
He
Yeah.
was pretty ornery, wasn't he?
Yes. Yes, he came by that honestly. I taught him that.
I know.
I always say you need to laugh more than you cry. Crying is good and crying is healthy, but laughing keeps your spirit up, and it makes others feel comfortable around you.
Mhm.
And so laughing is very important. So we did a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. He
And
looks
I still have his laughter on my voicemail on my phone, so I can hear it every once in a while from from a voicemail he had sent me while he was in his last rehab. So I keep those.
Yeah.
But yes, to memorialize Jordan, I keep his picture. I wear a button with his face on it, and I wear it on my coat most generally all winter long. And I had a lady at the grocery store the other day said, "Oh, your button. who's that good looking guy? And I said, thank you for asking. I said, that's my son, Jordan. She said, oh, wow, he's a nice looking gentleman. And I said, thank you. I said, he's with Jesus now, but thank you for asking. I like to wear his button around so people will ask me about him because he's not here any longer. And I don't get to talk about him on a daily basis like we do our living family. So when you ask me, I can talk about him. And that made her smile. That gave her a warm feeling inside. And it always gives me a warm feeling to know that someone's going to ask me.
Yeah.
Someone's going to ask me.
Yeah, that I love it that you do that.
I do too.
No, I have not done that. I have my button in my car, and I do wear it to certain things.
Yeah.
Um,
Wear
yeah,
it daily. It's such a good
I haven't
feeling.
tried that yet. I know certain songs and things have really triggered me this Christmas, like movies, and
Yeah.
I was someplace and they were playing the instrumental music to Little Mermaid.
Oh,
And that just took me right back to Lacey being 3 and 4 and 5. 'Cause that was her favorite movie
was it
forever.
really?
Oh my gosh, we watched it hundreds of times. So her,
But that
that
memory for you. Yeah.
it's just so fresh. And
Yeah.
I don't have a great memory, but on everything with her, I remember little details and
Yeah.
what nightgown she would wear when she'd run and get that DVD and grab my hand and say, "Let's go watch this."
What a good memory.
Yeah, it's always going to be there.
It
And
is, isn't it?
yeah. And what about the Godwinks? We talk about those miracles, little miracles that happen where you feel like you're having a special moment through a rainbow, or with me, it's been a lot of different things, but
Oh, yeah. I've had so many different Godwinks with Jordan. I mean, it from a foil, little four-leaf clover, finding that in the middle of the winter for no reason. It shouldn't even be there to, people calling me out of the blue saying they knew Jordan or being at a retreat and somebody seeing his picture on our table that worked at the retreat and used to work with him. Yeah, that was my first
oh,
Godwink. I mean,
oh,
just those
yes.
memories
I
that
was there. Yeah.
yes. And that's
Huge.
something that you just live for.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are diamond moments. And we
Yes.
feel like little miracles, really,
They
because
really do.
how could all that be put together just for you?
Exactly. I mean, it's got to be God.
It has,
There's no other way.
it has.
That's why they call them Godwinks, I guess, huh?
Right, right. So what motivates you right now to just keep plugging forward, and what do you feel like you're going to be doing for the next few years if you had to guess?
Well, I also lead a Hope After Loss group like you and Chris, and I appreciate those people so much because we get each other. We know the sadness that we're going through is fleeting and there and gone and just always around us, and just getting to be around those people help me. They give me a purpose. Helping people, the loved ones that are in a sober living home. I love talking to them because they're still here. And if they know our stories, would it make them want to continue? I want to give them a chance to know what I went through so they would want to try harder
Yeah.
and learn more and follow God. I mean, God is everything. If I didn't have him, Rhonda, I wouldn't be here with a smile on my face.
No, no.
He woke me up and he walked with me hand in hand through my grief. And he's still there on my sad days.
Right. He's always around, and it's the one thing you can count on. No.
Absolutely.
We know some ladies in our group that have lost both their children and all of their children.
Yes.
And, fortunately, we still have family around us.
Yes.
I have 2 sons and a husband. You have a great husband and all your little ones. And
Yeah.
well, Trace is not so little anymore.
No, no, he's about a foot taller than me almost.
Oh, wow.
I know.
So what would you say to someone that's just sinking in grief? Like what if you could just say a few things that would help them, what would be your advice?
Every day, give yourself to God before you step out of bed. Just ask him to wrap his arms around you and hold you. And then when you get out of bed, just put one step in front of the other and do what you need to do through your day. And if you're able to show gratitude to someone, I find that has helped me so much. I mean, some days you can do gratitude and some days you can't, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up on the days that you can't, but the days that you can hold the door open for someone, tell someone they look beautiful, just love on someone that you know needs it. Just that kind of gratitude. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular, but those little pieces of gratitude will bring you a long way on a daily basis. And you'll remember those things and it'll help build you up.
Boy, that's so true. It's been someone said gratitude is the antidote for grief,
That's good.
and it really is.
I believe that.
I can remember the first time I felt grateful. Like I had had that dark cloud, like you say, it's just darkness and
Yeah.
pain, and you feel so much despair all the time. And there was nothing I could say I feel good about. I just
Right.
couldn't. And other people around me were saying, "Oh, we're so lucky to live in Kansas. We're so lucky to have these beautiful homes we live in. And we're so lucky to have." And I was just like,
Yeah.
how can you feel lucky?
Right.
I couldn't feel it. I was
Yeah.
just, it wasn't there. And I was at a retreat.
Yeah.
I was at a Hope After Loss retreat. And it might have been a Finding Hope retreat, but something hit me with the messaging that we were hearing and the
Mhm.
speaker. And it just like when you went in that church the first time, I just
Yeah.
like I got to have the most amazing daughter.
Right.
And, I mean, I really got it. It was like,
Yeah.
he was here for 30 years. How can I be this down? Because what if I'd have never had her?
Exactly.
They're worth it.
They
They're
are so worth it. Every moment we had with them is so worth it.
Yeah, yeah. So I
But
started being grateful, and gratitude does heal you.
it does. You are exactly right.
That's a good word, though. Even if you can't think of anything to be grateful for, just start with small things.
Yeah. Just small little things. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant at all.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of blessings, I mean, in all of this, and you don't think you're gonna be able to say those words, but there are
No,
blessings. There
there
are.
truly are, Rhonda.
Yeah.
A lot. I've
Um,
met a lot of amazing people through our lost journey. I think about them, I pray for them daily because we can connect with each other and it's a different kind of connection. It's a club we never wanted to join, but here we are.
Yeah. And we survive.
That's right. It's hard to see that, isn't it? But we
It is.
do.
And you think I'll never be the same, and you really aren't the same, and that's okay
It
too.
is.
You know,
Yeah.
you can be a better version of yourself. And I always get upset because I wish Lacey could know me now, because
Right.
I was pretty judgy. Just be like me and you'll be great,
Yeah.
Get your stuff together and be like your
Right.
mom. I
Right.
never see
Right.
the things you're doing.
Right.
You just need to straighten up and go work out. That was, that was my answer to a lot of
I
things.
know.
And I know she was just over there going,
I know.
talk again, ever.
All she's talking about is working out.
Get some judgment and stick it somewhere, And now I just understand so much more about
I do
people's
too.
struggles, and I understand addiction, and I didn't have a clue back then. And for all those parents out there, if you can just understand the disease of addiction,
Yeah.
the brain disorder and the things that the kids are swept away with and what happens in their everyday life, the struggle they have, and they don't wake up wanting to be in
No,
addiction.
no, they do not. That is the one thing they do not want. They don't want to be that person that others look down to. I'm like you, Rhonda. This journey has changed my perspective on everyone. And the way I don't judge people like I used to, just like you.
No.
I don't. I remember the first time Jordan walked in Walmart so I could enable him and get him a new phone, and how he looked when he walked in Walmart. I was embarrassed,
Yeah.
but I don't know where he was living. I don't know whose couch he was sleeping on or if he was sleeping. I don't know anything. And if I could take that look off my face. So I do believe there is purpose through our pain.
Yeah.
And I believe God wanted us for bigger and better things
Right.
and for us to learn so much and to share it with others.
We would never have a ministry to brokenhearted people if we weren't brokenhearted.
That's right.
It has to crush you first, I think, before
I
you can
agree.
ever help someone else. And it's okay to be crushed. We can take that,
Yeah,
and we can. And you and I are sitting here, proof of that. We're
that's right.
9 and 10 years down the road, and
Yeah,
we survived another Christmas and another Thanksgiving. And
that's right.
I know it's not easy, but God is so good.
He is amazing. That's one definite big gratefulness I have.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Do you have any resources you would share too with someone besides those support groups and things that you mentioned? Do you have anything that someone might want to read or podcasts or anything else?
I listen to, or on Instagram, I do a group called Life After Grief, I believe it's called. And it's very eye opening to read what others say. I love my Hope After Loss group. I would say to Google anything in their area for grief journey. And I would recommend substance use grief because it's a different kind of grief.
Right.
It it is different. I mean, I know people that have lost someone to a car accident, and it's not the same grief. I mean, yes, we could share our sadness together, but they don't know what it was like to have their loved one in addiction
Right. Yeah.
for so many years.
Yeah. And when you say angry, I remember being so angry at the Sackler family because the opioid phase started right when Lacey got her knee surgeries. And
Yeah.
those pills were just hundreds of them were being written prescriptions for
Yes.
the smallest little things. And
Yes.
I was
Jordan
angry.
too.
Yeah. I was so angry at that family and Big Pharma and
Mhm.
the FDA and anyone that had anything to do with those prescriptions. So
Yes.
I I get that part of it, and I can still get riled up about
I
that.
can too.
But God's so much bigger than all of this. And when he looks down on this whole situation, his view is so different than ours.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we have to practice and trust him, but we have to practice his word and trust that his word is the winner.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the only way to go. I mean, you can't get enough of it.
No.
Anywhere you can find the scripture, the verses, whether it's the Bible app or what's the one hollow.
It is hallow. Yeah.
Yeah, anything you can scripture
Mhm.
in music, any kind of music is. I mean that's what fed me is the gospel and the music. I couldn't really read it, but I was able to listen to it. And
Yes. I found a lot of Bible grief lessons on the Bible app. I found a lot of grief studies that are good.
yeah, Chris wrote one.
Chris wrote one that was very good too. That helped. And podcasts, any kind of podcast, like your podcast, And Chris has a blog that is very helpful too. A weekly
Oh,
blog that helps.
it's called something
Treasures and Trials.
Treasures and Trials blog. And then her Bible app lesson is called, is it just Hope? Is it Hope After Loss? Or
No,
Loss?
it's got a sunflower on the front of it. I
Yeah.
can
Well,
see it
I
in my
will put
mind.
it, I'll put it in the notes
Yeah,
because that is a good
yeah,
lesson.
very helpful. But I look for anything that I can that's positive. I want positivity around me. I don't want negativity because I felt like I lived in negativity during Jordan's addiction problems.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't see anything positive coming from him, and I knew he had it in him.
Yeah.
I knew it was in him.
Well, you know, the times that he came to you and was honest about needing help, that's huge.
That was huge.
There's a lot of people in addiction that never get to that point.
I know. I felt like he truly trusted me
He did. You had a
because
good relationship.
we really did. He didn't tell anyone. He came to me in that. And we have a friend that he met at his last rehab. She lives not too far from me, and she was in rehab with him. I didn't know this lady until after Jordan died, and we live right down the road from each other. And she always said after he passed, she always said he would call me his second mama in rehab. And she said that he would always say, I have the best mom, but you are my second mom. And so we've remained friends. And I never knew about her. I never knew that there was a woman there from small town Oklahoma
Hmm.
that was taking care of my son because she was old enough to be his mother, but she wasn't my age. You know, she's younger than me, but she
Wow.
was taking care of him. And I never knew about her until after he died.
That's so cool that you found out about her and he
Yeah,
bonded with somebody. And to hear him brag about you,
I know.
that erases a lot of the mistakes we make.
It does.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I'm so grateful you were here to talk to the people that need to hear from you today because you have a wonderful testimony. And I can't imagine you being an angry person, but I'm just so thankful God brought you to that church and
Mhm.
you have Trace and your beautiful family. And I'm just so grateful for you, Cindy.
I am too, Rhonda. I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful God brought us together through our journey.
Yeah, me too. And I will see you soon in our Mexican restaurant, probably.
Yes, I hope so. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Thanks for being on the podcast. Love
Thank you for inviting me, Rhonda. I love you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today and for being a part of the Grief, Grace, and Gratitude community. Remember, God has not forgotten you, your dreams, or your broken heart. Join us for our next episode, available wherever you listen to podcasts. To help us reach more people, please like, share, subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social media. What will you trust God with today?